I say to teachers that you should be able to first read like a reader. That means take it in and enjoy it and love it yourself, which is why things exist to read. And then read like a writer. Look into a text and notice things, be able to see them, and then read like a teacher of writing. Be able to look into a text, see and notice things that you think you can teach or that your students, you think these students need to learn.
When teachers learn to read like writers and like teachers of writing, it transforms their instruction. They surround their students with a rich variety of texts and genres. Picture books, essays, editorials, feature articles. They teach their students how to analyze authentic examples of writing craft. And they create classroom communities where published authors become friends and mentors, and where every student can find something he wants to read and apply to his own writing. This workshop takes you to 3 elementary classrooms where teachers and their students read like writers. You'll see teaching strategies that help young authors observe and study the techniques published writers use to communicate. You'll watch as students are introduced to shared literary models. And you'll learn about practices that help students decide who and what to emulate as they develop their own writing style and craft. It all starts with a text.
We try to teach the kids to create their style by learning the styles of other writers and taking on, not imitating so much the exact structure or even the topic of another writer, but to take on those craft moves that they think they can do and that they think will enhance their writing.
5th grade teacher Lindsay Dybert has embraced the reading-based approach to writing that Isoke recommends. 6 years into her teaching career, she's already accumulated a large collection of books and other texts for her classroom. And she's helped create a bridge between reading and writing for herself and her students.
Every day, reading and write connect in my classroom in some shape or form, whether it's formally under the title of reading or formally under the title of writing. My students are learning how to read like writers and write what they like to read.
In their classroom in Danville, New Hampshire, Lindsay's 5th graders have been writing personal narratives. Today, the focus is leads, and Lindsay is relying on familiar children's books to model the strategies published writers use to introduce their stories. Lindsay has prepared a handout with opening paragraphs from works by Roald Dahl, Ted Hughes, Cynthia Ryland, and other authors. She begins with a whole class activity, reading the leads out loud and asking students to discuss the strategies the writers have used to draw their audience into their stories.
Let's read a few more. And as I'm reading, I'd like you to think about what's effective, what works. Here is James Henry Trotter when he was about 4 years old. Up until this time, he had had a happy life, living peacefully with his mother and father in a beautiful house beside the sea. There were always plenty of other children for him to play with, and there was the sandy beach for him to run about on, and the ocean to paddle in. It was the perfect life for a small boy. Then, one day, James's mother and father went to London to do some shopping, and there a terrible thing happened. Both of them got eaten up, in full daylight, mind you, and on a crowded street, by an enormous, angry rhinoceros who had escaped from the London Zoo. That was from James and the Giant Peach. Once upon a time, there was a bat, a little light brown bat, the color of coffee with cream in it. He looked like a furry mouse with wings. What's catching your attention about those? What were some of the things the authors did? Josh?
Like with the one where it said the one where the kid's parents got eaten. That I would really want to read that book because I want to see what happened to him later.
Yeah.
They're being descriptive, like on the one that says a little light brown bat, the color of coffee with cream in it. Like they're describing what color it is.
And that got your attention?
Dale? And every one I mentioned the characters.
Got you thinking about the characters. Great. You have lots of sample leads here of leads that start with a question. That's one type of lead. You have leads that speak to the reader. You need to know this if you started lying. Description, how to start off with the setting, or describing the little bat that you had mentioned. And a question, like Lori seemed to like quite a bit from the Iron Giant. What I would like you to do in your groups is I'd like you to pick out your top 3 most effective leads out of this list. What makes it a good lead? Why do you like it so much? In a group, you're going to need to come up with 3 leads that your group thinks are the best.
As the students discuss the leads and analyze their strengths, they're engaged and focused. This small group activity reinforces and deepens what the students have already learned about how the leads work. The activity also helps them begin to think about their own writing preferences and needs, preparing them for the individual work that will follow. We rejoin the class as a representative from each group explains which leads they have chosen and why.
Lori, what did your group decide on?
Well, we decided to do James and the Giant Peach because we thought it was like really cool how the parents got eaten up by an angry rhinoceros, and I wanted to read on because it sounded like I wanted to know what happened to the boy, what his like new parents or something was. And we did the Iron Man too, and we liked the questions, like I said. And on Project Mulberry, like Josh said, we were wondering why they became friends of a vegetable.
So a lot of the same things we're enjoying. We want to know more about. We got to hook that reader in, and it sounds like some of these leads must have been good enough to do that. Representative here?
Okay. We did the Bat Poet because we liked the part when it said there was a little light brown bat, the color of coffee with cream in it. And I also liked, he looked like a furry mouse with wings, and I thought that was very descriptive. And it got a picture in my mind on what the bat looked like.
And what were the other 2 that your group chose?
We did James and the Giant Peach, and the Iron Man. We liked the Iron Man because whenever it said how far had he walked, nobody knows. Where had he come from? Nobody knows. How is he made? Nobody knows.
It's that repetition.
Yeah.
Don't you think? So it sounds to me like some of the qualities of good leads are any lead that can make you wonder about something. Something that questions, like the questions in the Iron Giant, or just some odd facts of sorts, as in, what one was it? The Roald Dahl book, James and the Giant Peach. What else makes an effective lead that you've learned? Lori?
Maybe questions.
The questions work for you. The setting works for you. The description worked for you and Devin. It's great.
The next step for Lindsay's 5th graders is individual work. Using examples from the handout or opening paragraphs from other books as models, the students start experimenting with new leads for their stories. As the students write, Lindsay moves around the room, stopping to ask questions and confer with children about their choices. In these conferences, Lindsay is careful to show respect for her students' decision-making as she directs their attention back to the model leads.
What leads did you like in here?
This one
Chasing Vermeer?
and the Louis the Fish, the Iron Man.
All right.
But I can't really think of the question.
Of a question?
Well, I thought a different lead could be, were you ever afraid of the dark when you were young? But
That sounds like a good start. It's similar to what I'll be back again. If you are a child, she's speaking to the reader. There's no reason why you couldn't try that one and speak to the reader with your question. Think you'd be willing to give that a shot?
okay.
Okay. And maybe that'll lead you to something different, perhaps something similar to questions about the Iron Man. What are you working on?
I'm gonna add this, but I'm gonna change this to fall. And
So it was in the fall?
I'm probably gonna add like it was mid-fall, so it could sound like which, and maybe I might add the day to it. So.
Okay. And why are you choosing this lead by Cynthia Rylant?
Because I like this one, I like the book too.
You like the book too?
Yeah, I read it.
She's a great author, isn't she? And I think she does an excellent job at telling the reader, you know, what time of year it is, but she goes about it in a way, and I think we talked about this before, in a way that's, she doesn't just come out right out and tell you. She describes it for you. She makes it more interesting.
After their individual writing time is over, Lindsay students come together for one more whole class meeting. In this case, to share their new leads. Here's the payoff for today's classroom work. The students understand the craft lessons inherent in the examples Lindsay has offered them. And now they've applied those lessons to their own writing.
Stefan, would you like to share something and maybe tell us why you like it?
Well, I like doing leads because, like, it's basically pretty much starting up, beginning your own story, like Michael said. And I think that this lead sounds a lot better than my old lead, because, like, my old lead was, like, when I was younger, I couldn't kick, and, like, that's it. But these are more interesting. Like, if a reader just read the first paragraph in my old version, they'd probably just put the book down. But with this, they'd probably, like, read a little bit more.
So could you share with us?
Okay. Why couldn't I kick a soccer ball far? I don't know. Why did I use my toe? I don't know. How long will it be before I know how to kick? I don't know. Yet.
Excellent. Very nicely done. I'm really impressed. Gabrielle, how about your leads? What worked for you?
The Louis the Fish by Arthur Yorkins worked for me because I tried doing this short sentence and it ended up being way better than my first one. So it says, "Gabrielle, can you get Shadow? He escaped again." "Okay, Mom." Suddenly there was a flash of white, black, and a big black furry tail.
Nicely done. Very nice. And why do you like that one better than your lead that you originally had in your story?
Because I didn't really describe like what Shadow looked like. I just chased him up into my house, but this one gives more description on how he looked, because in the rest of my story I didn't tell the reader what he looked like.
That's kind of important, isn't it? Yeah, for visualizing what you... And if I understand correctly, Fluffy's a pretty big part of your story. Yeah. There's such an amazing crossover between what we do in reading and what we do in writing. I find it does the students a disservice to have the two disconnect. So we use a lot of the same terminology in both subject areas to show that they are connected, and in order to do one well, you need to practice the other, and vice versa.